Tonight we plunge into the deep sea, where the world grows quiet and dark, where pressure becomes presence and cold becomes constant. There is nothing you need to do but relax, nothing to prepare for, nowhere to be but here, drifting downward with me through facts and fathoms, through the largest living space on Earth that humans have barely glimpsed, letting each fact wash over you like a gentle current, soft and steady, carrying you deeper into rest. Just before we begin, I want to say thank you for tuning into the Deep Sleep Discoveries channel. Let me know in the comments below where you are tuning in from and what sleepy science exploration you would like to hear next. And now, close your eyes, slow your breathing and relax as we submerge into the depths of the deep sea. The moment you descend past 200 meters, the ocean changes its nature entirely, becoming something else, somewhere else. This is the edge of the twilight zone, where the last traces of sunlight struggle and fail, where blue gives way to indigo and then to nothing at all. The phytoplankton that depend on photosynthesis cannot live here. The familiar fish of surface waters turn back, and an entirely different world begins. One that operates on different rules, different rhythms. A world that has existed in dimness since the oceans first formed, waiting patiently in the permanent dusk. From space, satellites have measured every underwater mountain and valley by detecting subtle changes in the ocean's surface, the way gravity pulls water slightly toward massive seamounts below, creating a topographic map of everything beneath, a complete picture rendered in broad strokes. Yet this is like knowing a face only from a distance, recognizing its general shape without seeing the details of expression. 25% has been mapped in high resolution, each rock and ripple recorded, but the rest remains a mystery in fine detail, unseen by human eyes, unexplored by submersibles, a vast territory we know exists but have never truly witnessed. If you could drain the oceans and stand on the average ocean floor, you would be standing nearly 4 kilometers below where the surface used to shimmer, in a basin so deep that the Empire State Building could be stacked upon itself 10 times before breaking that vanished surface. This is the true scale of the ocean, not the shallow coastal waters where we swim, but the profound basins that hold most of the water on Earth, depths where the pressure is immense and the darkness complete, where the terrain rolls in abyssal plains and submarine mountains larger than anything on land, a hidden topography more dramatic than continents. The deepest place on Earth lies in the Western Pacific, a crescent-shaped scar in the ocean floor where one tectonic plate slides beneath another, creating a chasm that descends nearly 11 kilometers farther below sea level than Mount Everest rises above it. If you could place Everest inside the Mariana Trench, its peak would still be covered by more than 2 kilometers of water, submerged entirely, invisible from the surface. This depth is almost incomprehensible, a distance so great that it takes hours for objects to sink to the bottom, falling through darkness, through cold, through pressure that increases with every meter. Pressure is weight distributed, the accumulated mass of all the water above pressing down, and at the bottom of the Mariana Trench this becomes a force almost beyond imagining. Over 1,000 times the pressure at the surface, enough to crush submarines not specifically designed to withstand it. To understand this pressure in human terms, imagine an elephant standing perfectly balanced on your thumbnail, all its weight concentrated on that small point. And even this doesn't quite capture the uniformity of ocean pressure, the way it presses equally from all directions, crushing inward. Yet life exists here, adapted perfectly, its cells filled with special molecules that counteract the pressure from within. When we think of habitat, we imagine forests and plains, the horizontal spread of land where creatures live on the surface, but the ocean offers something entirely different, a three-dimensional space where life exists at every depth, every level, creating a volume of habitat so vast it dwarfs all terrestrial environments combined. The deep sea alone, that dark zone below 200 meters, contains 99% of the biosphere by volume, layer upon layer of living space stacked vertically through the water column, each depth with its own communities, its own conditions, its own forms of life adapted to that particular pressure and darkness and cold. For decades, only 2 people had visited the deepest point in the ocean, Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh in 1960, descending in a bathyscaphe to Challenger Deep and returning to tell of a world few would ever see. 12 people had walked on the moon while only 2 had touched the deepest seafloor, making the ocean more exclusive than space itself. But between 2019 and 2024, repeated expeditions by Victor Vescovo, Chinese submersible crews, and others have brought more than 20 people to the Hadal depths, though this is still fewer souls than the number of countries with space programs, still a tiny fraction of humanity. The deepest ocean trenches occupy their own zone, distinct from the abyssal plains above them, a realm so extreme that scientists gave it a separate name, borrowing from mythology to describe a place that seemed as unreachable as the land of the dead. Hades was not hell in Greek thought, but the underworld itself, the deep place beneath everything. And this seemed fitting for the trenches that plunge deeper than mountains rise. These narrow scars in the seafloor where the pressure exceeds anything found elsewhere in the ocean, where species exist that live nowhere else, adapted to conditions found only in these deepest of deep places. Below the thermocline, that boundary layer where warm surface water gives way to the deep, temperature becomes constant and cold, hovering just above freezing regardless of season, regardless of latitude, creating a uniform chill that pervades the entire deep ocean. This cold is not the cold of winter that comes and goes, but a permanent condition, the fundamental temperature of deep water, cold enough to slow all biological processes, to make every action require careful conservation of energy, yet not so cold that water freezes, maintaining a liquid state under the pressure. It is a cold without variation, without relief, the baseline condition of existence. Most of our planet is deep ocean floor, a fact that reshapes how we think of Earth itself, revealing it as primarily a world of dark abyssal plains rather than continents and shallow seas. 2/3 of the planet's surface lies beneath deep water, hidden from satellites mapped only roughly, a vast terrain of sediment and rock that accumulates the slow rain of material from above, that records in its layers the history of the ocean and the climate and the life that has existed over millions of years. This is the true surface of Earth, not the land where we live, but the deep floor where geological processes work slowly and life moves at the pace of the cold. In the darkness of the deep sea, most creatures have become their own light sources, carrying within their bodies the chemical machinery to produce illumination, creating a living constellation of lights that drift through the black water. This bioluminescence happens through a reaction between a light-producing molecule called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase, names that mean light bearer and light maker, and when they combine in the presence of oxygen they release energy as visible light, usually blue or green because these wavelengths travel farthest through water. 3/4 of deep sea species can do this, making bioluminescence not an oddity but the norm, the expected adaptation, the way creatures see and signal and hunt in the permanent night. The light that creatures make is cold light, requiring no heat, wasting no energy as warmth the way a light bulb does, converting the chemical energy almost entirely into photons that stream outward through the water. The luciferin molecule, when acted upon by the luciferase enzyme, transforms into an excited state, holding energy that it then releases as it returns to its resting form, and that release manifests as light, as a glow that can be controlled, turned on and off at will, modulated into patterns, used as language or lure or camouflage. Different species use different luciferins, different luciferases, creating different colors and intensities, but the principle remains the same. This elegant chemical reaction that turns molecular energy into visible light. The anglerfish that dangles a glowing lure above its mouth does not make that light itself, but instead maintains a colony of bacteria in a specialized organ, providing them with nutrients and oxygen while they produce light as a byproduct of their metabolism. A symbiotic relationship where the fish offers shelter and food, while the bacteria offer illumination. These bacteria glow continuously, and the fish can control the light only by covering or uncovering the lure with dark tissue, like opening and closing shutters. Other species have evolved their own light-producing cells called photophores, organs containing crystals and reflectors and filters, able to produce light through their own chemical reactions, offering more control over when and how and what color they glow. In a world where most bioluminescence glows blue or green, where most eyes have evolved to see only these wavelengths because they travel farthest through water, a few species have discovered a secret, producing red light that they alone can see. The dragonfish and loosejaw fish have red photophores and eyes sensitive to red wavelengths, allowing them to shine what amounts to a private spotlight on their prey, illuminating the creatures around them while remaining invisible to those creatures, seeing without being seen. It's like having infrared vision in a world where everyone else is colorblind to the infrared spectrum, a private channel of light that conveys advantage. This small shark produces light along its entire underside except for a dark collar around its neck, creating an effect called counter-illumination where the glow matches the faint light filtering down from above, erasing its silhouette when viewed from below. Predators looking up see not a shark-shaped shadow against the slightly lighter water above, but an even glow that blends seamlessly with the background, making the shark effectively invisible. Only that dark collar remains visible, and scientists believe this might mimic a small fish, attracting larger fish that swim up to investigate, only to have the cookie-cutter shark lunge forward and use its circular mouth to carve out a plug of flesh, leaving its distinctive cookie-cutter-shaped wound. Satellites orbiting Earth have captured images of the ocean glowing over areas as large as Connecticut, vast fields of pale blue light called milky seas that persist for hours or days, and for a long time no one knew what caused them. The answer turned out to be bacteria, specifically Vibrio harveyi, living in association with algae blooms, producing light in such enormous numbers that their collective glow reaches space, a bacterial light show of incomprehensible scale. This is different from the sparkling blue waves that sometimes light up beaches at night, which come from dinoflagellates, single-celled organisms that flash when disturbed, their light a defensive response designed to startle predators or attract predators of predators. Each year in Toyama Bay, thousands of firefly squid rise from deep water during their spawning season, and when they wash up on beaches at night, they create a spectacle of blue bioluminescence, the sand itself seeming to glow as waves of living light pulse and fade with the surf. These tiny squid, only a few centimeters long, have photophores covering their bodies, particularly on their tentacles, and they use these lights to attract prey, to communicate with mates, to create displays that we can only imagine the purpose of. The annual appearance has become a tourist attraction, people gathering in darkness to watch the glowing waves, to witness this overflow of the deep sea onto land. The crystal jelly, Equaria victoria, produces a protein that fluoresces green when exposed to blue light, and when scientists isolated this protein, they discovered it could be inserted into other organisms, making their cells glow green under the right conditions, allowing researchers to track specific proteins, to watch biological processes in real time, to see inside living cells in ways that were never before possible. This discovery won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2008, and green fluorescent protein has revolutionized biology, all because a jellyfish evolved a way to convert blue bioluminescence into green light, probably to extend the range of wavelengths it could produce, and certainly without knowing that its molecular solution would illuminate laboratories across the world. Beneath each eye of the dragonfish sits a photophore, a light organ that it can aim forward like a flashlight, shining into the darkness ahead to reveal the creatures drifting there, making them visible while the dragonfish itself remains relatively hidden, its dark body absorbing what little light reflects back. This is active hunting with bioluminescence, different from the passive lures that anglerfish use, a strategy of seeking rather than waiting, sweeping the darkness with that beam of light. And because the dragonfish produces red light that most deep-sea creatures cannot see, it's shining a spotlight that only it perceives, seeing its prey while its prey remains blind to the illumination. It's an elegant adaptation to hunting in the dark. When you see waves glowing blue at night, each whitecap sparkling with light, you're watching a defensive response. Millions of dinoflagellates producing light because they've been disturbed by the motion of the water, by the mechanical stress of waves breaking or your hand passing through. The light serves as a burglar alarm, a way to attract the attention of larger predators who might eat whatever small creature is disturbing the dinoflagellate, or simply to startle that creature into stopping, into leaving the dinoflagellate alone. It's a cry for help expressed in photons, a flash that says something is happening here, come and investigate, and the result is that every movement through bioluminescent water creates trails of light, footprints of disturbance glowing briefly then fading back to darkness. The barrelly fish looks like something from science fiction. its head a clear dome filled with transparent jelly, its eyes tubular organs suspended inside that dome, pointing upward to watch the water above for the silhouettes of prey against the faint light. The transparent skull protects these delicate eyes while allowing them to see in any direction, and recent observations have shown that the fish can rotate its eyes forward when it wants to look ahead, when it wants to see what it's eating, giving it both upward and forward vision through that remarkable transparent skull. The fluid inside protects and cushions the eyes, and the whole arrangement speaks to the strangeness of deep-sea adaptation, the way evolution finds solutions we would never imagine. The gulper eel's mouth is enormous relative to its body, and its jaw is not rigidly attached but loosely connected, allowing it to open to extraordinary widths, creating a cavern of a mouth that can engulf prey items that seem impossibly large. The eel's stomach is equally expandable, stretching to accommodate whatever the eel has managed to swallow, and in an environment where food is scarce, where you might go weeks or months between meals, the ability to eat something large when you encounter it, to take advantage of any opportunity no matter the size of the prey, becomes a crucial survival strategy. The eel looks almost comical with its enormous mouth and whip-like tail, but that body plan is perfectly suited to its life. The blobfish has become an internet sensation for its sad, drooping appearance, its gelatinous flesh seeming to sag in a depressed expression, but this is not what the fish looks like in its natural habitat. At depth, under immense pressure, the blobfish is a normal-looking fish with firm flesh, its body density carefully calibrated to the pressure around it, allowing it to hover above the seafloor without expending energy. When brought to the surface, that pressure disappears, and the blobfish's flesh, which relies on pressure to maintain its shape, expands and droops, like bringing a deep-sea creature into low gravity. It's a reminder that we often see deep-sea creatures under conditions that distort their true nature, judging them by their appearance in our world rather than theirs. At 2 degrees above freezing, water is cold enough that ice crystals could begin forming in body fluids, disrupting cells and causing damage. But some deep-sea fish produce special proteins that bind to any ice crystals that begin to form, preventing them from growing, keeping the blood and cellular fluids liquid even at temperatures that would otherwise allow freezing. These antifreeze proteins are similar to those found in Arctic fish, a case of convergent evolution where the same problem, how to keep fluids liquid in extreme cold, produces similar molecular solutions in unrelated species. The proteins work by getting in the way of ice formation, literally blocking the crystal lattice from expanding, maintaining fluidity through chemical interference rather than warmth. When threatened, the vampire squid performs a remarkable defensive maneuver, pulling its arms up and over its body, turning itself into something that looks like an inside-out umbrella or a spiky ball, its arm webbing forming a protective cloak covered with fleshy spines called cirri that make it look less appetizing, less like prey and more like a strange drifting object that might not be worth eating. This posture also conceals the squid's bioluminescent organs, eliminating any light that might attract attention, making the squid a dark, spiky thing in the darkness. It can hold this position for several minutes, waiting for danger to pass, then unfold itself and resume its normal activities, a transformation from vulnerable creature to defensive ball and back again. Many deep-sea creatures grow larger than their shallow water relatives, a phenomenon called deep-sea gigantism seen in isopods, squids, amphipods, and other groups. And while scientists don't fully understand all the reasons why, cold temperature plays a role, slowing metabolic rates and allowing creatures to live longer, to keep growing over extended lifespans rather than maturing quickly and dying young. The cold also increases the efficiency of oxygen absorption, and the constant temperature means no energy wasted on thermal regulation, all factors that might contribute to larger body sizes. Additionally, food scarcity selects for larger body sizes that can store more energy and go longer between meals, making size advantageous in ways it might not be in food-rich environments. The fangtooth fish is small, only about 6 inches long, but its teeth are enormous, jutting upward from its lower jaw like needles, so long that the fish cannot close its mouth. So long that when the mouth does close, the lower fangs slide into special sockets on either side of the fish's brain, sheathing themselves in bone to avoid piercing the fish's own skull. These teeth are tools for grasping, for holding onto anything the fish manages to catch in the darkness, ensuring that once prey is seized it cannot escape. And the fangtooth hunts in the mesopelagic zone where bioluminescent prey animals drift. where the fangtooth rises and descends with daily vertical migrations, following the sound-scattering layer up and down in the water column. In the deepest trenches, in the Hadal zone where even bioluminescence is rare, some creatures have lost their eyes entirely. The genes for eye development still present in their DNA but switched off, no longer expressed, because maintaining eyes requires energy and resources that are better spent elsewhere when there is nothing to see. Eyeless fish navigate through smell and touch, through sensing vibrations, through detecting the chemical traces that other organisms leave behind, finding food and mates and avoiding obstacles through senses other than vision. This is not blindness in the sense of losing something once possessed, but rather the evolutionary abandonment of a sense that provides no benefit, a streamlining of form to match function. The pelican eel is mostly mouth, a gaping maw attached to a thin, whip-like body, and when the mouth opens, it reveals an enormous pouch, expandable like a pelican's throat pouch, capable of engulfing prey much larger than you'd expect such a slender creature could manage. The eel likely hunts by swimming with mouth open, scooping up whatever small crustaceans or fish it encounters, filtering food from the water more than actively pursuing individual prey. That enormous mouth maximizes the chance of contact with food in an environment where food is sparse and widely scattered, turning the eel into a living net that sweeps through the darkness, harvesting whatever it happens to encounter in its path. In the deep sea, being visible means being vulnerable, and so many creatures have evolved skin so black it absorbs 99.5% of light that hits it, approaching the blackness of a black hole, making them nearly invisible even when illuminated by bioluminescence. This ultra-black skin contains specialized melanin structures that trap light, preventing reflection, ensuring that when another creature's bioluminescent photophore shines on them, almost no light bounces back, no silhouette appears, just a void in the water that reveals nothing. It's camouflage through absorption rather than transparency, a different solution to the same problem of hiding in an environment where light means danger, where being seen means being eaten. Just as humans can be identified by fingerprints, some deep-sea creatures can be identified by the pattern of their photophores, each species having its own arrangement of light organs, its own constellation of glowing points, creating a visual signature that others of the same species can recognize. This is particularly important for mating, allowing males and females to find each other in the vast darkness, to distinguish their own species from the dozens of other bioluminescent creatures drifting nearby. The patterns serve as identification, as communication, as a way of saying, here I am, this is what I am. These lights spelling out species identity in a language of luminous dots arranged across the body like stars in a private constellation. Most deep-sea creatures have lost the ability to see red wavelengths because red light doesn't penetrate far through water because it's filtered out long before reaching the depths, so evolving to see red offers no advantage and most species have let that capability disappear. But the stoplight loosejaw has retained red vision, and more than that, it produces red bioluminescence from photophores beneath its eyes, allowing it to illuminate its prey with a color of light that prey cannot see, to hunt by stealth with a spotlight that is to most creatures completely invisible. It's the predatory equivalent of wearing night vision goggles in a dark room, seeing clearly while everything else remains blind, a secret sense that conveys enormous hunting advantage. Transparency is camouflage of a kind, allowing light to pass through the body rather than being absorbed or reflected, rendering the creature nearly invisible as long as internal organs don't create shadows or opaque spots. Many deep-sea larvae, jellyfish, and some squid species are transparent for exactly this reason, their bodies like living glass drifting through the water. Others are reddish or dark red, and this might seem like poor camouflage until you remember that red wavelengths don't reach the deep sea, that under blue bioluminescence, a red creature looks black, absorbs light rather than reflecting it, making red an effective dark camouflage in a blue-lit world, a color choice that makes sense only in context. The viperfish's teeth are needle-like fangs that extend beyond the jawline, the longest teeth relative to head size of any fish, creating a mouthful of points that interlock when the mouth closes, trapping anything caught between them with no chance of escape. The fish cannot fully close its mouth because the teeth are too long, leaving it in a permanent expression that looks ferocious and probably is, those fangs designed to impale prey, to hold small fish and crustaceans while the viperfish maneuvers them into its throat. The viperfish also has photophores along its body and a long dorsal fin ray that glows, possibly used to attract prey, drawing curious creatures close before striking with those impressive fangs in a movement too fast to avoid. The umbrella octopus and other deep-sea species have webbing that extends between their arms almost to the tips, creating a structure that looks like an umbrella or a parachute when spread, giving them the ability to expand their body profile to drift and glide through the water with minimal effort, using that webbing as a net to capture prey items or as a defensive posture that makes them look larger and more difficult to handle. This is different from shallow water octopuses whose arms are mostly separate, individual limbs that can work independently. But in the deep sea, where energy conservation is crucial, having arms connected by webbing offers advantages for efficient movement and for creating a trap that can close around small prey, the octopus descending over them like a blanket. At hydrothermal vents where superheated water pours from the sea floor, giant tube worms cluster in groves, their red plumes waving in the current. And these worms have no way to eat in the conventional sense because they lack mouths and stomachs entirely. Instead, they house billions of bacteria in a specialized organ called a trophosome, and these bacteria use chemosynthesis to convert the hydrogen sulfide from vent water into organic compounds, producing food that the worm absorbs directly into its tissues. The worm provides the bacteria with hydrogen sulfide and oxygen, pumping both through its blood using hemoglobin that binds them separately, and in return the bacteria provide all the nutrition the worm needs, a perfect symbiosis that allows life without eating. Each eye of the colossal squid measures about 27 centimeters across, larger than any other animal's eyes, evolving to this size because larger eyes gather more light, crucial in the dim depths where even bioluminescence provides only faint illumination, and they also offer better resolution at distance, allowing the squid to detect predators or prey from farther away. These enormous eyes sit in sockets the size of soccer balls, and they contain photophores, light organs that might illuminate the retina from behind, amplifying the little light that reaches the eye. The squid needs this visual capability because it lives at depths where sperm whales hunt, and detecting an approaching whale might be the difference between escape and death, so the eyes have evolved to their extraordinary size. Using radiocarbon dating of eye lens proteins, scientists determined that Greenland sharks reach sexual maturity at around 150 years old and can live for 4 centuries or more, swimming slowly through the cold Arctic waters, growing throughout their entire lives, accumulating centuries of experience in a single body. One shark examined was estimated at 392 years old, meaning it was alive during Shakespeare's time, swimming through history, surviving centuries that saw the rise and fall of empires, the Industrial Revolution, the Space Age, all while moving through cold water, eating fish and seals and whatever else it could catch. Longevity seems connected to the extreme cold and slow metabolism, the way time itself moves differently in the deep and frigid ocean. Turritopsis dohrnii has discovered a form of immortality, the ability to reverse its life cycle when stressed or injured, transforming from its mature medusa form back into a polyp, essentially aging in reverse, returning to an earlier life stage and then growing up again, potentially repeating this cycle indefinitely. This makes the jellyfish biologically immortal, capable of avoiding death from old age. But in the ocean, most immortal jellyfish are eaten or succumb to disease before they can demonstrate this ability many times. So biological immortality doesn't translate to actual immortality, to living forever in practice. Still, the mechanism is remarkable, controlled by specific genes that regulate cell transformation, offering insights into aging and cellular plasticity that scientists are only beginning to understand. Zombie worms are small, feathery creatures that colonize whale falls, the carcasses of dead whales that sink to the ocean floor. And these worms have evolved a specialized way of eating bone, growing root-like structures that penetrate the bone matrix and secrete acid to dissolve it, releasing fats and proteins trapped inside the mineralized tissue. The worms have no mouth or gut, instead housing bacteria in their roots, and these bacteria help break down the bone nutrients, which the worm absorbs directly. The worms are all female. Males are microscopic and live inside the female's tubes, reduced to little more than sperm-producing sacs, a dramatic example of sexual dimorphism. They can consume an entire whale skeleton over several years, extracting every nutrient from the bones. When attacked, some sea cucumber species can eviscerate themselves, forcibly ejecting their digestive system, gonads, and respiratory structures through their anus toward the predator, creating a tangle of sticky, sometimes toxic organs that can entangle or deter the attacker while the sea cucumber escapes. This seems like suicide, but the sea cucumber can regenerate all these lost organs over several weeks, growing an entirely new digestive system from scratch, a remarkable feat of regeneration that allows the animal to survive encounters that would kill most creatures. The expelled organs continue to move and wriggle for some time, furthering the distraction, and the sea cucumber, now lighter and more mobile, can crawl away and begin the slow process of rebuilding itself. The Yeti crab, discovered at hydrothermal vents in 2005, is covered with hair-like structures called setae, particularly dense on its claws and chest. And in these hairs live colonies of bacteria that the crab actively cultivates, waving its claws through the vent water to expose the bacteria to the chemicals they need to grow. The crab essentially farms these bacteria, tending them like crops, and when it needs food, it scrapes the bacteria off its setae and eats them, harvesting the bacteria it has cultivated. This is aquaculture in miniature, animal agriculture. The crabber's farmer tending fields of bacteria growing on its own body, a remarkable example of symbiosis and behavioral sophistication in a creature we might otherwise think of as simple. The Dumbo octopus, named for the ear-like fins protruding from its head that resemble the Disney elephant's ears, lives at depths that would crush most octopuses, floating above the seafloor in the abyssal zone where pressure is immense and food is scarce. Unlike other octopuses, Dumbo octopuses swallow their prey whole, often small worms and crustaceans, because the extreme depth makes them sluggish and they cannot afford the energy expenditure of wrestling with food. They move by pulsing their webbed arms and flapping their ear-like fins, creating a graceful, almost flying motion through the water. And they are generally small, gelatinous, less muscular than their shallow water relatives, adapted perfectly for life in the deepest reaches where even other octopuses cannot survive. The frilled shark looks like something from the age of dinosaurs, with its eel-like body and mouth filled with three-pointed teeth arranged in rows, and it does retain many ancestral characteristics that have changed little over millions of years, making it seem like a living fossil, a window into the deep past. But calling it unchanged is an oversimplification. The frilled shark has continued to evolve, its genes accumulating mutations, its body adapting to the deep sea environment in ways that might not be immediately visible but are there in its biochemistry, its physiology, the subtle adjustments that keep any species viable in changing conditions. It looks primitive because the body plan works, because there's been no strong pressure to change it drastically, but it is not frozen in time. Giant isopods, which look like enormous pill bugs the size of small cats, live in the deep sea where food is sporadic, and they have evolved the ability to enter a state of extreme metabolic slowdown when food is unavailable, reducing their energy consumption to nearly nothing, surviving on stored reserves for years at a time. One isopod in captivity went 5 years without eating and survived, finally dying for reasons unrelated to starvation, demonstrating just how efficient these creatures are at conserving energy. When food does arrive, perhaps a whale fall or a large fish carcass, isopods can gorge themselves, eating until they're so full they can barely move, then returning to their slow waiting state, living a life of extreme feast or extreme famine with no middle ground. The goblin shark has a protrusible jaw, meaning it can shoot its mouth forward several inches beyond its head, extending on elastic ligaments and cartilage to snap up prey before the prey realizes what's happening, then retract the jaw back into the normal position with the prey secured inside. This adaptation is called slingshot feeding, and it happens incredibly fast, the jaws rocketing forward, the teeth closing on the target, the whole mechanism retracting in a fraction of a second. The goblin shark itself looks strange even without this trick, with a long flat snout covered in sensory organs for detecting electrical fields, and a soft pink body that suggests it's a sluggish swimmer that relies on surprise rather than speed, that jaw-shooting mechanism its primary hunting tool. Greenland sharks and related sleeper sharks accumulate high concentrations of trimethylamine oxide in their tissues, a compound that helps counteract the effects of pressure and cold, but makes the flesh toxic to humans if eaten fresh, causing symptoms similar to extreme intoxication. In Iceland, this shark meat is a traditional food called hakal, but it requires months of fermentation buried in the ground and then hanging in the air to break down the toxins, resulting in a strong-smelling delicacy that most visitors find challenging. The trimethylamine oxide is not unique to sharks. Many deep-sea creatures use it, but sleeper sharks have such high concentrations that it affects even their predators, causing intoxication in seals that eat them, making the sharks toxic prey as well as formidable predators. The nautilus is often called a living fossil, and unlike the frilled shark, this title is more apt because the nautilus's basic body plan has remained stable for 500 million years, outlasting dinosaurs, surviving mass extinctions that killed most marine species, persisting through ice ages and warm periods and continental collisions. Its shell is divided into chambers separated by walls. Each chamber once inhabited by the nautilus as it grew, the animal building a new, larger chamber and moving into it, leaving the old chambers gas-filled for buoyancy. This design has worked for so long that there's been no evolutionary pressure to change it significantly, the nautilus continuing to glide through the water using jet propulsion, tentacles waving exactly as its ancestors did hundreds of millions of years ago. While most sea stars have 5 arms, some deep-sea species are more elaborate, with 20, 30, even 40 arms radiating from a central disc, creating a complex starfish that looks almost like a living mandala. These arms are not just appendages but contain extensions of the animal's vital organs, and if an arm is severed and contains enough of the central disc, it can regenerate an entire new sea star, the arm growing a new disc and new arms, cloning the original animal from a fragment. This remarkable regenerative ability allows sea stars to survive partial predation, to reproduce asexually, to recover from injuries that would kill most animals, regrowing complex tissues and organs from simple cellular instructions. In 2016, researchers using a remotely operated vehicle encountered an octopus so pale it appeared almost transparent, sitting on the seafloor at a depth where no octopus had ever been observed before, more than 4 kilometers down, deeper than any previously known octopus habitat. This ghost octopus, not yet formally named or described, represents the deepest frontier of octopus evolution, a creature that has adapted to conditions at the edge of the abyssal zone, where pressure is enormous and food is scarce and the challenges of survival are extreme. Its discovery reminds us that even familiar groups like octopuses still have secrets, still have species living in places we assumed were too extreme, still expanding our understanding of what's possible in the deep sea. Before 1977, scientists assumed that all life on Earth ultimately depended on sunlight, on photosynthesis, on the energy that plants capture from the sun and transfer up the food chain. Then researchers exploring the deep ocean near the Galapagos found hydrothermal vents, and surrounding these vents were thriving ecosystems, giant tube worms, white crabs, strange clams, all living in complete darkness, all thriving where no photosynthesis was possible. This discovery changed biology fundamentally, revealing that life could be based on chemosynthesis instead, that ecosystems could run on chemical energy from the Earth itself, and it opened the possibility that life might exist in similar environments on other worlds, in the ice-covered oceans of Europa or Enceladus, wherever water and volcanic heat meet. The water pouring from hydrothermal vents is superheated by magma beneath the ocean floor, reaching temperatures of 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. Yet it doesn't boil because the pressure at depth is so great that water's boiling point rises dramatically, requiring much higher temperatures than the 100 degrees it boils at sea level. This superheated water is loaded with dissolved minerals, sulfides, iron, copper, zinc, leached from the rocks it passed through, and when it meets the cold ocean water, these minerals precipitate out, building chimneys and structures around the vents, creating the dramatic formations called black smokers and white smokers, mineral towers that can grow meters tall, geological structures built by the interaction of hot and cold. When mineral-laden vent water meets cold ocean water, dissolved sulfides precipitate into tiny particles, and these particles are dark, creating plumes that look like black smoke pouring from the vent openings, giving black smokers their name. The smoke is actually mineral particles, solid matter crystallizing out of solution, and these particles settle around the vent, gradually building up the chimney structure from which the smoker issues, adding layer upon layer of mineral deposits. creating formations that can grow rapidly by geological standards, sometimes meters in just a few years. The black color comes from iron sulfide and other dark minerals, and the temperature of the water inside the smoker can be hundreds of degrees, while just centimeters away, the ocean water remains near freezing. Not all hydrothermal vents produce black smoke. Some emit lighter colored plumes, white or pale yellow, and these are called white smokers, vents where the water is cooler, usually between 100 and 300 degrees Celsius, hot enough to carry minerals but not hot enough to dissolve the iron sulfides that make black smokers dark. Instead, white smokers precipitate barium, calcium and silicon compounds, minerals that are pale, creating chimneys and formations that look like white or cream-colored towers rising from the seafloor. These cooler vents often support different communities of organisms than black smokers, with different bacteria specialized for different chemical gradients, demonstrating that even within the vent environment there is diversity, different niches supporting different forms of life. The bacteria living at hydrothermal vents have evolved an entirely different way of making food, using chemicals instead of light as their energy source, a process called chemosynthesis that works by oxidizing reduced compounds like hydrogen sulfide or methane, extracting electrons from these molecules and using that energy to convert carbon dioxide into organic compounds, into sugar and other building blocks of life. This is fundamentally similar to photosynthesis in its goals. Both processes fix carbon, both create organic molecules from inorganic ones. But chemosynthesis uses chemical energy instead of solar energy, making it independent of the sun, allowing life to thrive in darkness, in places where photosynthesis is impossible, proving that life is more versatile than we once believed. The chemosynthetic bacteria at hydrothermal vents are primary producers, the first link in a food chain, converting chemical energy into biological tissue that other organisms can eat. And in this way they fill the same role that plants fill in surface ecosystems, but without needing light. Giant tube worms house these bacteria and absorb the nutrients they produce. Mussels and clams filter the bacteria from the water. White crabs scrape bacterial mats off rocks, and fish and octopuses eat the filter feeders and grazers, creating a full ecosystem with multiple trophic levels, all powered by chemical energy from the Earth's interior. It's an ecosystem where the sun is irrelevant, where the planet itself provides the energy, and it shows that life can adapt to circumstances we once thought impossible. The Pompeii worm, named after the Roman city destroyed by volcanic heat, lives closer to extreme heat than any other animal, building tubes directly on the sides of hydrothermal vent chimneys where the temperature gradient is steep. The tail end of the worm exposed to water near 80 degrees Celsius while its head protrudes into water that's merely warm. The worm's back is covered with hair-like filaments that host bacteria, and these bacteria may produce insulating mucus or may help the worm tolerate the heat through some mechanism we don't fully understand. The Pompeii worm has proteins in its cells that stabilize at high temperatures, preventing the proteins from denaturing, from falling apart under heat, allowing the worm to function where most animals would cook. The shrimp that cluster around hydrothermal vents have lost their eyes, or rather, their eyes have transformed into simple light-detecting organs that sit on their backs under the shell, positioned to detect the faint infrared glow that very hot objects emit, that the vent chimneys radiate. These organs cannot form images, cannot see in the way we think of vision, but they can detect heat as light, allowing the shrimp to orient themselves relative to the vent, to position themselves in the optimal zone where chemical concentrations are high but temperature is not lethally hot. It's a unique adaptation using modified eyes as thermometers, detecting thermal radiation instead of visible light, navigating by heat signatures in a world without illumination. Each time scientists discover a new hydrothermal vent field, they find new species, organisms that have evolved in isolation at that particular vent system, separated from other vents by kilometers of cold, inhospitable ocean floor, evolving independently over thousands or millions of years. Some species are related to those at other vents, similar enough to suggest connection in the distant past, while others are entirely unique, found nowhere else on Earth, demonstrating that the deep sea is not uniform but patchy, that vent systems are like islands in the abyss, each developing its own community of specialists. This pattern of discovery suggests that most vent species remain unknown, that the full diversity of vent life is still beyond our grasp. Some scientists believe that life might have originated at hydrothermal vents in the chemical-rich, energy-abundant environment they provide, where water and rock and heat interact to create complex molecules, where the conditions might have been right for the first self-replicating molecules to form, for the first cells to organize themselves from the chemical soup. The ancient Earth had many hydrothermal vents, and they would have provided stable conditions protected from the harsh surface environment, offering chemical energy and mineral catalysts that could have facilitated the reactions necessary for life. This is still hypothesis, still debated, but the discovery of vent ecosystems has made the theory plausible, has shown that life thrives in conditions we once thought too extreme, making vents a candidate for life's beginning. Running down the center of the Atlantic Ocean like a spine, the Mid-Atlantic Ridge stretches over 16,000 kilometers, longer than the Andes, the Rockies, and the Himalayas combined, a mountain range that rises from the abyssal plains to within a few thousand meters of the surface but rarely breaks through, remaining hidden beneath the water except in places like Iceland and the Azores. This ridge marks where tectonic plates are pulling apart, where new ocean floor is being created as magma rises and cools, and the whole structure is seismically active, volcanically active, a place where the Earth is literally spreading, creating new crust continuously, a geological process that has been reshaping the planet for millions of years, all of it happening beneath the sea. When sediment accumulates on steep underwater slopes, it can become unstable, and when it finally gives way, it creates a turbidity current, a dense mixture of sediment and water that flows downslope like an avalanche, accelerating to speeds that can exceed 100 kilometers per hour. Powerful enough to snap undersea communication cables, to carve channels in the seafloor, to reshape underwater landscapes in a matter of hours. These currents can travel for hundreds of kilometers before finally slowing and depositing their sediment load on the abyssal plains, creating graded beds where larger particles settle first and finer particles settle later, leaving a geological record that scientists can read like a history of underwater avalanches, a chronicle written in layers of sand and mud. The seafloor is not flat but mountainous, covered with volcanic peaks and ridges and seamounts. And when you count all these underwater mountains and compare them to the mountains on land, the ocean has more, far more, tens of thousands of seamounts rising at least a kilometer from the seafloor, each one a mountain by any reasonable definition, plus the long ridge systems and the volcanic arcs and all the other elevated features that make the ocean floor more topographically complex than any continent. Most of these underwater mountains are unmapped in detail, known only from sonar or satellite data, never visited, their slopes and peaks as unexplored as the surface of Mars, hosting communities of creatures we've never seen. Between the underwater mountains lie the abyssal plains, vast stretches of seafloor that are remarkably flat, smoother than any plain on land, covered by thick layers of sediment that have been accumulating for millions of years. The constant rain of marine snow gradually filling in any irregularities, creating a landscape of almost perfect flatness. These plains cover more than half the Earth's surface, and they are some of the least explored places on the planet, monotonous in their uniformity but hosting life that survives on whatever food drifts down from above, creatures that plow through the sediment or sit on its surface waiting, adapted to the most stable, unchanging environment on Earth. Off many continental shelves, submarine canyons cut deep into the seafloor, channels carved by turbidity currents and other sediment flows, and some of these canyons rival or exceed the Grand Canyon in scale, running for hundreds of kilometers, cutting thousands of meters deep, creating dramatic topography that remains mostly hidden from view. The Monterey Canyon off California is deeper than the Grand Canyon, and the Hudson Canyon extends the Hudson River Valley far out into the Atlantic. Channels that funnel sediment from shallow water to the deep sea, creating pathways for nutrients and organisms, influencing ocean currents and creating habitats along their walls, where creatures find shelter and food in the otherwise flat abyssal plains. Seamounts are volcanic mountains that rise from the seafloor but don't reach the surface, and they are incredibly common, dotting the ocean floor like islands that never quite made it, created by volcanic hotspots or by tectonic activity, most of them extinct volcanoes now slowly eroding. These seamounts interrupt ocean currents, causing upwelling that brings nutrients to surface waters, creating oases of productivity in the open ocean. And they also host unique biological communities on their slopes, species that have evolved in isolation on individual seamounts, creating biodiversity hotspots that conservation efforts are only beginning to recognize and protect from threats like deep-sea mining and fishing. Like hydrothermal vents but without the heat, cold seeps occur where methane and hydrogen sulfide seep slowly from the seafloor, often at continental margins where organic-rich sediments are buried and decomposing, producing these gases that then migrate upward and leak out. And where they leak, chemosynthetic bacteria colonize, forming mats and building relationships with clams and tube worms and other creatures that can host or eat them. Cold seeps can persist for thousands of years, much longer than hydrothermal vents, creating stable ecosystems that support dozens of species, all dependent on the chemical energy of the seeping gases, all thriving in the cold, deep water where photosynthesis is impossible. In some places, particularly in the Gulf of Mexico and the Mediterranean, brine pools form on the seafloor, depressions filled with water so salty and dense that it doesn't mix with the seawater above it, creating distinct boundaries, actual shorelines underwater where one body of water meets another. These brine pools are formed when salt deposits dissolve and create super-concentrated salt water that sinks to the lowest points, and they are hostile to most life. Their high salinity and often low oxygen making them lethal to creatures that enter. Yet their edges support mussels and other organisms that can tolerate the chemical gradients that live in the transition zone between brine and seawater, harvesting the bacteria that thrive on the chemicals. Because brine is denser than seawater, it forms a distinct layer, and this creates an interface that acts like a surface, a boundary where the dense brine meets the less dense seawater above, and this interface can support waves, actual ripples that move across the brine pool's surface when disturbed by currents or by submersibles passing overhead, creating the surreal sight of waves underwater, a lake within the ocean. The shoreline is equally distinct, a clear boundary you can see where the brine pool ends and rock or sediment begins, and this demarcation makes the brine pool look unmistakably like a lake, complete with a surface and shores, except it's sitting at the bottom of the ocean. In some places, dense water, whether from high salinity or extreme cold, flows along the seafloor like a river, following the topography, running through underwater channels and valleys, creating currents that can be tracked and measured, that transport sediment and nutrients and influence the distribution of life. The most dramatic example is the Denmark Strait overflow, where cold, dense water from the Nordic seas spills over an underwater ridge and cascades down into the North Atlantic, creating what is effectively a waterfall underwater, several kilometers tall, the largest waterfall on Earth, though entirely submerged, flowing continuously, a river within the ocean carrying enormous volumes of water in a current that influences global circulation patterns. Sound moves through water at about 1,500 meters per second compared to 340 meters per second in air, and this means that sound travels farther and faster through the ocean, that creatures can use sound to communicate across distances that would be impossible in air, that whale songs can cross entire ocean basins, that the sounds of ships and sonar can propagate for thousands of kilometers. This makes the ocean an acoustic environment, where sound is more important than light for sensing the environment, for communicating, for navigating, and where the deep sea, though dark, is not silent but filled with clicks and whistles and groans and rumbles, an auditory landscape we're only beginning to understand. Hydrophones lowered into the deep sea reveal a soundscape rich with noise, snapping shrimp creating crackling sounds like bacon frying, fish drumming on their swim bladders, whales singing their complex songs and increasingly human sounds, ship engines, sonar, seismic surveys, filling the water with noise that can interfere with marine life's ability to communicate and navigate. The deep sea that we think of as silent is actually quite loud, sound being the primary medium for sensing and signaling in the darkness. And the addition of anthropogenic noise represents a form of pollution that's only recently been recognized, a disruption of the natural acoustic environment that has existed for millions of years. When a sperm whale produces its clicking sounds, used for echolocation and possibly for communication, The clicks can reach intensities of 230 decibels, louder than a jet engine, louder than almost any sound in nature, so loud that the sound waves could theoretically cause physical damage to nearby organisms, though the whales direct their clicks forward and seem careful about when and where they vocalize. These clicks are produced by forcing air through structures in the whale's head, creating pulses that the whale can focus and direct using its enormous spermaceti organ, that oil-filled structure that gives the whale its name, and the returning echoes allow the whale to build a sonic image of its environment, to hunt squid in total darkness at depths where light cannot reach. Many fish have evolved the ability to make sounds by rapidly contracting muscles attached to their swim bladder, causing the gas-filled bladder to vibrate and produce sound, similar to how a drum works, and different species use these sounds for different purposes: attracting mates, defending territory, coordinating group movements, startling predators. The sounds vary from low-frequency rumbles to higher-pitched grunts and whistles, and some fish can produce remarkably loud sounds for their size. The swim bladder acting as an efficient resonator that amplifies the muscle contractions, turning small movements into sounds that can carry through the water for hundreds of meters, creating an acoustic signature that identifies the species as surely as appearance would. In 1997, underwater microphones detected an ultra-low frequency sound that rapidly increased in frequency over about 1 minute, a sound pattern dubbed the bloop, that was loud enough to be detected by sensors thousands of kilometers apart, and because it matched the frequency signature of sounds made by animals, speculation arose that it might be an unknown marine creature, something enormous living undiscovered in the deep ocean. Later analysis, however, concluded that the bloop's characteristics are consistent with ice quakes, the sound of large icebergs cracking and breaking as they carve from glaciers or as they fracture while floating, sounds that can be enormously loud and that travel vast distances through water, creating the mysterious signal without requiring any cryptozoological explanation, though the initial speculation captured imaginations worldwide. Many fish and some other marine animals have a lateral line system, a series of sensory organs running along their sides that detect water movement and vibrations, allowing them to sense nearby objects, to detect the movements of prey or predators, to navigate in darkness without vision or sound. These organs consist of hair cells similar to those in the inner ear, sensitive to pressure changes and water displacement, able to detect vibrations at different frequencies, creating a sense that's sometimes called distant touch, a way of feeling things that aren't directly contacted, perceiving the water disturbances that objects create, building a picture of the nearby environment through hydrodynamics rather than through light or sound, a sensory modality that's crucial in the deep sea where visibility is zero. The ocean contains layers of water at different temperatures and salinities, and these layers bend sound waves in predictable ways, creating channels where sound can travel horizontally for thousands of kilometers with minimal loss, trapped between layers much like light travels through fiber optic cables. The SOFAR channel, standing for Sound Fixing and Ranging Channel, is one such layer, found at depths around 1,000 meters in most oceans, where the combination of temperature and pressure creates ideal conditions for sound propagation, and whales may use this channel for long-distance communication. Their low-frequency calls traveling across ocean basins, allowing whales separated by thousands of kilometers to potentially hear each other, to maintain contact across distances that seem impossible. The water column is filled with slowly sinking particles, dead plankton, fecal pellets, mucus, bits of tissue, organic aggregates, all descending like snow, creating a constant rain of material that feeds the deep sea, that provides the primary food source for creatures living in the darkness below. This marine snow is what connects the surface ecosystem to the deep sea ecosystem, transferring energy downward, allowing life to exist at depths where no photosynthesis occurs. And the deeper you go, the less marine snow reaches you because organisms at higher levels consume and metabolize much of it. So deep sea creatures must survive on the remnants that escape consumption during the long fall through the water column. The particles that make up marine snow sink slowly, perhaps 100 meters per day for typical small particles, meaning it can take weeks or even months for material to fall from the surface to the abyssal depths 4 or 5 kilometers below. And during this journey, the particles are colonized by bacteria, consumed and excreted by zooplankton, broken apart and reaggregated, transformed continuously so that what arrives at the seafloor is chemically and structurally different from what left the surface. The slow sinking time means there's a long delay between surface productivity and deep seafood supply. So seasonal blooms of plankton at the surface create seasonal pulses of food arriving at the bottom weeks later, creating temporal patterns in the deep sea that echo events in the sunlit zone. When a whale dies and sinks to the ocean floor, it brings an enormous amount of organic material, blubber, muscle, bone, and this creates a food bonanza for the deep sea, a concentrated resource that can support a succession of ecological communities over many decades. First come the scavengers, hagfish, sleeper sharks, amphipods that consume the soft tissue. Then come worms and crustaceans that colonize the bones and eat remaining flesh. Finally come the bone-eating zombie worms and bacteria that break down the lipids stored in the bones themselves, a process that can take half a century or more, the whale skeleton gradually disappearing, all its organic content distributed into the deep sea ecosystem, supporting perhaps hundreds of species in the area immediately around the carcass. The hagfish, an eel-like scavenger, has a boneless body that's incredibly flexible, and it uses this flexibility to tie itself literally in a knot, a loop that it then slides along its body to create leverage, allowing it to tear chunks of flesh from the carcasses it feeds on, pulling against its own knotted body rather than needing to brace against the environment. This knotting behavior also helps the hagfish clean slime from its body. It produces enormous amounts of slime as a defense mechanism, and it can remove this slime by sliding a knot along its length, scraping the slime off. And it can use knots to escape from the mouths of predators that have tried to bite it, literally tying itself in a knot and pulling free, using its boneless flexibility as both tool and defense. In an environment where meals are infrequent, the ability to eat a large amount when food is available becomes crucial, and some deep sea fish have evolved stomachs that can expand dramatically, stretching to several times the fish's normal body volume, allowing them to consume prey items that seem impossibly large. The black swallower can eat fish twice its own length, its stomach expanding until the fish it swallowed is visible through the stretched stomach wall, and sometimes the prey is so large it begins to decompose before the swallower can digest it. The gases from decomposition sometimes causing the swallower to float to the surface, where it's discovered looking like a snake that swallowed a pig, a testament to the extreme adaptations that food scarcity selects for. The cold temperature and low food availability of the deep sea favor creatures with low metabolic rates, animals that grow slowly, reproduce infrequently, live long lives, and require relatively little energy to maintain themselves. This means deep sea creatures can survive long periods without food, that they can wait patiently for meals to arrive rather than actively hunting, that they move slowly and deliberately to conserve energy, making the deep sea a place of patience, of waiting, where the pace of life is fundamentally slower than in the food-rich surface waters, where survival depends on efficiency rather than speed, on minimizing energy expenditure rather than maximizing growth. With food so scarce and unpredictable, many deep-sea creatures cannot afford to be specialists, cannot afford to wait for a particular type of prey when any prey is rare, so they've become generalists, scavengers and opportunists that eat whatever they encounter, whatever drifts down from above or washes in from elsewhere. This creates a community where the same species might sometimes hunt live prey, sometimes scavenge dead material, sometimes eat bacterial mats, sometimes filter marine snow, shifting strategies based on what's available, a flexibility that's essential in an environment where you cannot predict when your next meal will arrive or what form it will take. Many deep-sea fish have reduced their bone density or eliminated bones entirely, have developed large oily livers or gas-filled swim bladders that provide buoyancy, creating a body density that exactly matches the water around them, making them neutrally buoyant, able to hover motionless in the water column without effort, without needing to swim to maintain position. This is energy conservation taken to its logical extreme, eliminating the need to work against gravity, allowing the fish to wait motionless for prey or to drift with currents without expending energy. And it's yet another adaptation to an environment where energy is precious, where every calorie saved might mean the difference between surviving until the next meal or starving. Jellies, comb jellies, salps, and other gelatinous creatures are common in the deep sea, and part of the reason is that gelatinous tissue is mostly water, requiring little protein or other expensive biological materials to construct, and requiring little energy to maintain since it's metabolically inactive. A jellyfish can grow to large size without the energetic investment that a fish or crustacean of the same size would require, can create a large body capable of intercepting prey without paying the full cost of that body, making gelatinous organisms efficient exploiters of the deep sea's scarce resources, able to succeed where more metabolically expensive body plans struggle. Life history in the deep sea is characterized by slow growth, late maturity, and infrequent reproduction, all consequences of limited food availability. A deep sea fish might take decades to reach maturity, might reproduce only once every few years, might produce few offspring, investing what energy it can spare into the next generation but unable to afford the rapid reproduction that surface species manage. This makes deep sea populations vulnerable to overfishing and other disturbances because they cannot quickly rebound from population declines, cannot rapidly replace losses. Their slow life history optimized for stable conditions rather than recovery from disturbance, making them fragile in ways we're only beginning to appreciate. The ocean absorbs about 90% of the excess heat that greenhouse gases trap in the Earth's atmosphere, and much of this heat eventually mixes into the deep ocean, where it's stored for decades or centuries before returning to the surface, buffering the planet against rapid temperature changes. The ocean also absorbs about 30% of human-produced carbon dioxide, where it dissolves and either remains as dissolved carbon dioxide or forms carbonic acid, gradually making the ocean more acidic, a change with consequences we're still discovering. The deep sea's enormous volume makes it a crucial part of the climate system, a thermal and chemical reservoir that moderates what would otherwise be more extreme changes at the surface. Companies are developing technologies to mine the seafloor for valuable metals, copper, cobalt, nickel, rare earth elements, concentrated in nodules and crusts and hydrothermal deposits. But these mining operations would devastate local ecosystems, destroying habitat and creating sediment plumes that spread for kilometers, smothering life. And because we've explored so little of the deep sea, we would likely be destroying species before we even know they exist, eliminating ecosystems before we understand them. The slow growth and reproduction of deep-sea organisms means recovery from mining would take centuries or millennia if it occurs at all, making deep-sea mining a decision with essentially permanent consequences that we're contemplating based on very incomplete knowledge. In 2019, researchers found a plastic bag and candy wrappers at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, nearly 11 kilometers deep, proving that human pollution has reached even the most remote places on Earth. Places that no human has walked but that our waste has found. Microplastics have been found in deep-sea organisms, in sediment cores from the abyssal plains, in the stomachs of creatures that live in perpetual darkness. Particles of degraded plastic that have sunk from the surface or been carried by currents, infiltrating the deep-sea ecosystem, ingested by creatures that mistake them for food, concentrating up the food chain in ways we don't yet fully understand, but that cannot be benign. The thermohaline circulation, often called the ocean conveyor belt, is a system of currents driven by temperature and salinity differences, and it includes deep water flowing along the ocean floor from the poles toward the equator, carrying cold, dense water that eventually upwells and returns at the surface, completing a cycle that redistributes heat around the planet. This circulation influences climate on every continent, bringing warmth to higher latitudes, affecting precipitation patterns, moderating temperatures, and changes in this circulation, potentially caused by melting ice or changing salinity, could have dramatic effects on global weather, could shift monsoon patterns or alter the frequency of extreme events, making the deep ocean currents a crucial component of the climate system. The exclusivity of Challenger Deep has decreased significantly in recent years as technology has improved and as exploration has intensified, with Victor Vescovo making multiple dives in his submersible limiting factor, with Chinese submersible Fendouzhi carrying crews to the bottom, with other expeditions planned or completed, bringing the total number of people who have reached the deepest point to more than 20. Still a small number but growing, still far fewer than have climbed Everest or traveled to space, but no longer the almost exclusive club it once was, the deep ocean becoming slightly more accessible while remaining profoundly challenging. Cold water corals in the deep sea lack the symbiotic algae that help shallow corals grow quickly, so they grow incredibly slowly, perhaps a millimeter per year, building their skeletons grain by grain over centuries. And some coral colonies are thousands of years old, among the oldest living organisms on Earth, having begun growing before the pyramids were built, before Rome fell, before European contact with the Americas. These ancient corals record ocean conditions in their skeletons. their growth rings containing information about past temperatures and chemistry, making them archives of ocean history, and their extreme age makes them vulnerable because recovery from damage takes centuries, because a coral forest destroyed by trawling might not recover within human timescales. The unique chemistry of deep-sea organisms, evolved to function under extreme pressure and in the presence of unusual compounds, has yielded molecules with potential medical applications, compounds that can kill cancer cells, that have antiviral or antibacterial properties, that might treat pain or inflammation. The cone snail's venom has led to pain medications. Compounds from deep sea sponges show promise against certain cancers, and researchers continue to search for new molecules in deep sea organisms, a process called bioprospecting that treats the deep sea as a chemical library, a source of novel compounds that evolution has already tested, that organisms have refined over millions of years, offering solutions to human medical problems discovered in creatures living kilometers below the surface. Without the ocean's absorption of carbon dioxide, atmospheric concentrations would be much higher than they are, and the deep ocean is particularly important for long-term storage, because carbon dioxide dissolved in deep water can remain there for centuries before that water returns to the surface, effectively removing carbon from the atmosphere-ocean exchange for that duration. This service that the ocean provides is enormous, slowing the rate of climate change, giving ecosystems and human societies more time to adapt. But it comes at a cost to the ocean itself, the absorbed carbon dioxide making the water more acidic, affecting shell-forming organisms, changing ocean chemistry in ways that will cascade through ecosystems. So the ocean's absorption of our carbon emissions is both a blessing and a slowly developing crisis. Of the perhaps 10 million species that live in the ocean, only about 250,000 have been described and named, meaning we've discovered and catalogued less than 10%, leaving the vast majority unknown, unnamed, unstudied. Most of these unknown species probably live in the deep sea, in that enormous volume of habitat that we've barely explored. Species adapted to niches we haven't imagined, using strategies we haven't observed, connected through food webs we don't understand. Every deep-sea expedition discovers new species, dozens of them, hundreds sometimes, suggesting that the actual number of species might be even higher than estimates suggest, that the biodiversity of the deep ocean is among the richest on the planet and almost entirely unknown to us. Over the decades of deep-sea acoustic monitoring, hydrophones have recorded sounds that don't match any known source, low-frequency rumbles or peculiar patterns that might be geological, might be biological, might be something we haven't thought of. The bloop was one such sound, later explained, but others remain mysterious, sounds nicknamed Julia and Slow Down and Train by the scientists who recorded them, sounds that are probably not from giant unknown creatures as popular imagination hopes, but whose actual sources remain uncertain, potentially ice movements or underwater landslides or volcanic activity or some combination of factors, reminders that even in the realm of sound, the deep sea holds surprises. When scientists drill into the seafloor and extract cores of sediment, they find bacteria living in the mud hundreds of meters below the ocean floor, buried under layers of sediment cut off from the surface for millions of years, surviving in conditions we barely understand. These deep biosphere microbes live incredibly slowly, dividing perhaps once per century or even less frequently, existing in a state between life and dormancy, metabolizing at rates so low they're difficult to measure yet persisting, proving that life can exist in conditions that seem impossibly harsh, that the deep biosphere beneath the seafloor might contain as much biomass as all the rest of the ocean combined, a hidden dimension of life that we've only recently begun to appreciate. The sediments accumulating on the abyssal plains are falling slowly and continuously, building up layer by layer, and because the deep sea floor is geologically stable, not disturbed by waves or currents or burrowing organisms the way shallow sediments are, these layers remain intact, creating a stratigraphic record that extends back millions of years, recording changes in ocean temperature, in sea level, in the composition of plankton communities, in climate patterns. Scientists can drill these sediments and read Earth's history, can see ice ages come and go, can track the extinction events and evolutionary radiations, can measure the chemical changes that accompanied past climate shifts, making the deep sea floor an archive of planetary history more complete than almost any record on land. The pattern holds across decades of exploration, across every technology and every location, Whenever we send cameras or submersibles to the deep sea, we discover species science has never seen before. Creatures that don't fit existing categories, that require new names, new descriptions, new understanding. This isn't slowing down, isn't approaching completion, but continuing at the same rate it always has, suggesting that the diversity of the deep sea is so vast, we're nowhere near cataloguing it, that centuries of exploration might not be enough to fully document what lives there. The deep sea remains largely unknown, its ecosystems mysterious, its inhabitants strange, a wilderness that covers most of our planet but remains as unexplored as any place could be, holding secrets that we're only beginning to glimpse. And so we rise from the depths, slowly, gently, bringing with us these facts like pearls gathered from the dark, each one a glimpse of the vast mystery that exists beneath the surface, each one reminding us that our world is stranger and more wonderful than we often remember, that life finds ways in places we assumed were lifeless, that the ocean holds more stories than we could hear in a lifetime. Rest now. Let these images of the deep sea drift through your mind like marine snow, settling softly, and sleep well, knowing that while you rest, the deep ocean continues its ancient rhythms. The creatures adapted to darkness, pursuing their lives in ways we're still learning to understand. The abyss holding its secrets patiently, waiting.